So let's start off with your story, because I think you are very much like my friend, and looking when people see you, they don't know that you are legally blind. Is that correct?
Yeah, most of the time people don't notice unless I have a walking cane because of
Hmm.
the condition I have. There are most of the time I don't need the cane. Usually it's when I'm having a flare up and I'm out in a place I've never been before, like traveling. And so a lot of times if you see me like at an airport, you'll see me with the cane. Or if I'm in a big new city, like we went to Philadelphia, and it was like, okay, let me grab it because I'm not from there. But usually people don't see me with the cane. And oftentimes I have glasses on because I need them to see a little bit better for distance. And so people just assume I'm like everybody else. And so I should say, if I need to tell them, they're a bit shocked and like, oh, really? Okay.
Hmm.
And then they're just a little shocked by it. But yeah, most people just from a glance don't know that I'm legally blind at all.
I actually have two friends. One is, I would say she is legally blind, but she's functionally legally blind, and I hope that's uh, an okay term to use. She described it to me like taking three Ziploc bags and putting them one on top of each other, and then putting them in front of her eyes. That's how she sees things, with that kind of haze and muddle and stuff like that. So is that similar to you, or it's not
It
quite as
depends.
many?
Yeah, it just depends. And I think for most people who are legally blind, it's such a spectrum. And I think it to make it what people can understand easily, just like you talk about autism and it's a spectrum and you can meet somebody with autism who is very typical, and I use that with quotes, and then you wouldn't know, but then all the way to the person where you're like, okay, they're nonverbal. That's how big of a spectrum blindness is. And the term legally blind just means that, and it's not all over the world that they even use that term, because I've been on a UK podcast and they're like, we don't use that term.
Right.
But it's just in America, it just means that you have reached a standard of vision that's so low that the government acknowledges that you may need some additional support. That's really all that legally blind means. People can get to the point, and I've even gotten to the point where I can't see faces. Everything is just like blobs, all the way to I can drive and things like that. And so most I find that most people who are legally blind stay in a certain space, but my condition is very rare in which I literally from day to day can have good days and bad days, and I can drive today and then not be able to read my text tomorrow. So it's different, but I think most of us will say that there is a bit of haze or fog or distortion or blurriness that impedes us to be able to see clearly.
So what is the condition that you have? What is it called? How does it typically progress? When did you find out?
Yeah, so the condition I have is called uveitis. There's different types. I have what's called chronic pan uveitis. Basically, chronic meaning that I've had it for a continuous time longer than 6 months. I actually got diagnosed in high school. Pan uveitis just means it affects my whole eye. Some people can have anterior uveitis where it's just in the front. Some people can have acute uveitis, meaning they just got it for a short time. I know, like, not trying to scare anybody, but some people got COVID and then they ended up with an acute version of uveitis and then they were fine. Uveitis usually presents because of a systemic autoimmune condition. So, like lupus, arthritis, something like that. That's the majority of people. Now, it's a rare condition, so don't think it's like everybody, but it's a rare condition. And within that condition, most people have it because of an autoimmune issue. And so, once the underlying autoimmune issue is treated, they are pretty much in remission. It's cleared up. I have the fun one that's of the rarest of the rare, which is idiopathic, meaning they don't know what causes mine, so they can't treat the underlying condition. So that's why mine just fluctuates over time because my doctors only have the ability to treat the symptoms. Thus, the prognosis is always up in the air of how my condition will progress because it really just depends on how many flare ups I have, and they can come for any reason at all. Stress does typically flare up my personal uveitis, but it can happen for any reason, and depending on the severity and what things we can do to lessen the symptoms depends on that quality of vision that I'm going to have. So I'm now 35, even though I tell everybody I'm 25, but I'm now 35. And so we don't know how long I will have the vision I currently have or any vision at all.